Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to what I'm thinking is going to kind of split right about down the middle. 50% Quickview, 50% realization of a thought experiment, because it has been asked in the comments more than once, you gonna get yourself one of them Fusion Mini 16s? I did. Also, I did what I oft do, which is I saw the Fusion Mini 16. I saw that it was $59.99, and I thought, yeah, I'll get one of those. I'll give it a try. Cart, ordered, wait for it, delivered. And as it is in transit from whence it came and from where it arrived, I thought, does that thing use tiny pinions? It does. Does that thing have the motor bolt spacing of something tiny? It also does. Is that thing criminally high KV for anything that I use? Yeah. There is one vehicle in the Canyon fleet above 2,500 KV. And there are only a couple that are even above 2,000. We tend to sit between, I would say between 1,200 and 1,800. Right in that range is where we fall. So I'm thinking very small. Basically 370 sized, 3,000 kV. Who have we got that we can put this in? Like, we're not throwing this in baseline, right? I'm not going to ask this to haul a 6-pound vehicle around. So we went with as light as we could. And I'm going to try to remember to cover all of the pertinent points here so that we do classify as a quick view. This is Rainbird. He began life as a 10 Pro. He now has, essentially, he's got the geometry of a 10 Pro. He still has the rails. They're full 10 Pro axles, but we basically replaced every part and piece to get him where he is now. And where he sits now, he recently was on, he had glue-on plastic rears, and he had plastic bead locks in the front. And I was like, nah, I don't like that. We put some proper bead locks back on him, which ballooned his weight up to 2,250 grams. So he is just a hair under 5 pounds. And you would say, well, if you went through all that work, how is he 5 pounds? His front axle weighs 600 grams. So his front axle, just the axle, not the servo, not anything attached to the axle, is a quarter of the vehicle's weight. So we've got a 5-pound test vehicle. We have a super tiny, how tiny? Super tiny. We have a super tiny Fusion, which claims 30 amps continuous and 80 amps peak, which is not far off of the spec of a Fusion SE, but a Fusion SE weighs, I don't remember why I forget things. A Fusion SE weighs, let's get to grams. 200. Dang it! I was going to say weighs around 200 grams. It weighs exactly, but it does have a pinion gear on it. So 195 grams. 190 grams. Let's go to 190. This little fella right here weighs 72. 72 grams is not a small amount of weight reduction if you're currently running a Fusion. Now, can I think of, off the top of my head, an instance where you could pretend this is an 1800 and not a 12. Is there an instance I could think of where you could just remove an 1800 SE and put this 3000 in there? I mean, well, for frame of reference, that is the pinion from a UTB 18, so it's 13 tooth, and that's the biggest Kimbrough spur I have, which is a 90. 1390. That's 7-to-1 spur to pinion ratio. Realistically, you'd have to put portals under this to get enough gear reduction to run a reasonable gear combo. This is as big. 7-to-1 is as big as I'm running spur to pinion on anything. That's really far apart. Also, as I mentioned, that's a UTB 18 pinion. It uses 2.3 millimeter pinions. So the other half of it, it's Quickview. The other half is Quickview of putting it in a 10th scale vehicle. They say perfect for 16th and 18th scale, but then they foolishly also claim 30 amp continuous, 80 amp peak, and a BEC pushing out 4 amps continuous. That's kind of enough. We should be able to work with that. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to try to work with it. We're going to see how hot is it going to get. We're going to see what happens. Pertinent information. Okay, you're going to need an adapter plate to mount it. That occurred to me during transit. Then I remembered that I make things. So you see our little disc there? That's exactly what that little disc is an adapter plate. There's the actual motor mount. It has 2 sets of holes on the plate. It has a set at 14 millimeters and it has a set at 17 millimeters. I think the 17 millimeter spaced holes are pretty much for us because I bored out the hole in the center large enough to where if the pinion was tucked in much tighter, we wouldn't have clearance issues. I know that I've seen these on the internet, adapter plates specifically to adapt the 18th scale bolt, 16th, 18th scale bolt pattern to 10th scale. So you can buy one. The ones I've seen, I want to say, are around $10. If I can find a link to one, I will put it in the description below. Then I can't give you any advice beyond that, other than order a 2.3 millimeter pinion if you don't already have one. Because I was so lucky to find that after having worked on a UTB 18. Otherwise, I would have taken a 5 millimeter bore pinion and built a giant sleeve for it on the inside to adapt them over. Probably not the best route, but I mean, it would have worked in the end. I also had to do modification to the spur gear mount to pull the spur in as far as I could because the plate is pushing it out further, everything's pushing it back. The pinion it's on full on the flats, but your results may absolutely vary depending on what you're putting this in. Despite the claims from the manufacturer, I don't know how heavy of a rig I would go with this because you got to remember, inside there, the part that makes the power is about that long and about as big around, maybe as big around as an American nickel. Not large. I don't remember if it says on the sheet. No, it just shows the external. The can it's a 2442 on the can. Yeah, 2.3 millimeter shaft, 4 motor poles, 72 grams. It also, this is stuff that I need to point out because it was news to me. You've got yellow cable. Yellow cable is for setting. You can set your drag brake to a knob if you have one on your controller, so you can vary your drag brake. I've got it on 1080 G2s and I never use it, but you do have it because my knob is reserved for cruise control, and I would much prefer to have cruise control. But that cable for this guy is used for programming, and I don't know if that occurs on other Hobbywing Fusions or motors. I've never seen it before. It has all of the exact programming parameters of a Fusion Pro, so you're basically getting a Fusion Pro for $59.99. It's just very small. So when you program it, you plug the 3 lead into this side. You see there's the signal marker over there. And then you plug the yellow one into that side. All the parameters are exactly the same. And what I would recommend, turn your reverse down and turn your punch down. Because at 3000 kV, this guy might be small, but he's very crispy. It took honestly, it took close to 2 hours to get that fitted to the vehicle because I had to fabricate a part, and then you absolutely have to find screws that are the right length. You don't want to use much longer than about a 6 millimeter screw through the plate to go in the can. You don't want to bottom them out in the can. Then once it was attached, it comes with a IC3, and I changed that out for an XT30, as is my want. And then calibrated it as you normally would. Well, sort of normally would. It has a more conventional switch, what we're not typically used to seeing from Hobbywing. So it has a set button and a toggle instead of a button. I don't know why that decision was made. You would think that it would just be the same button that's in any Fusion. Oh, they have the programmer in the end. That's why. So they moved something out of the inside on the tiny one versus the big one. And that's not surprising. That would fit inside of a regular one. So when you turn it on, Not a lot of noise. Also, that 90, this is a used 90. It's not the quietest spur gear in the world. Kind of still lives in the... His name is Rainbird. It kind of lives with the theme where he has a... But, here's what I will say. Here's how they get you. Here's how they get you with Fusions. If you haven't been got by a Fusion, here's how they get you with a Fusion. How low can we go on the cruise control? Yeah, we can go 8% throttle. Just absolute silence. And I mean, and it's a Fusion. So, what have I got? Who's on a rim? There we go. It's a Fusion. So it will keep continuing to deliver power, the FOC, even if it comes up across an 8% throttle. For frame of reference, most stock systems that come in RTRs won't even move until like 18 to 20% throttle input. So it has every bit the smoothness and the quietness. Come on, you got it, you got it. 20% underdrive. Every bit the smoothness and the quietness we've come to expect from all of the Fusions. And in a relatively limited application, because like I say, I'm not putting this in a 7.5 pound TRX4 or a Phoenix or something, but I can definitely see applications in my own fleet for this. And that AGFRC is direct power, so it doesn't care. It's one of those things. 4 amps is more than enough to keep what I call keeping the lights on. I would probably pair this to a direct power servo because we tend to be slinging a lot more weight around, all inclusively, including the wheel tire combo weights. But, I mean, also, pro tip, I set my EPAs, I set high to 85% and low to 75%. So with the punch turned down to 2, it now seems almost manageable. And it has RPM matching enabled from the factory, which means when you go full blast and let go of the throttle, it doesn't just bam, it doesn't just full drag brake, you kind of, you go down slow. But when you're accelerating slowly and you come up, it's full drag brake. And most amazingly, I don't know if it has the grunt to go up this. Probably not. Yeah, because the surface is very slippery. There we go. So in terms of drag brake, which is at default settings of 50%, I don't know how they do it. It's like wizardry. It really is. So you're going to need the pinion and whatever the biggest spur your vehicle will fit, unless you've got 100 to 1 gear reduction, then you can probably get away with a 3000. The adapter, 2.3 millimeter bore pinion, and a big spur, 48 pitch. If your vehicle doesn't fit 48 pitch, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to tell me, because we don't dabble in minis and micros. We will steal their power supply, their powertrains, though. I don't know if you can get a 2.3 millimeter bore 32 pitch pinion. I don't know if that's a thing. So there may be some restrictions out there. If your particular vehicle is built around a 32 pitch, you're going to have a time here. Also, I mean, the first one that pops in mind would be TRX4. This is not the system I'm putting in a TRX4, because a TRX4 on 3000 kV is an absolute rocket. There's not enough gear reduction to deal with 3000 kV. So choose wisely and accordingly, knowing that it's 3000 kV, and 3000 is a lot. This guy's going to be he's going to be a little happy and a little snappy, but all I want to see is what kind of heat is going to build up in that all-in-one. What kind of, are we gonna feel any bog down? I've gotten it to where running my other version of a 10 Pro, I have a Portal 10 Pro, and it's running the Furatech Dynamic 380 in there, which is actually motor-wise a little bit bigger than the motor that's in here. And we get some definite moments where you get this sound where the motor you just stall out and then it pops loose. And that's a 2000 kV 380. This is a 3000 kV, and I think they call it a 370. Is it a 370? I mean, we don't know what it is because it's a Fusion, so it's a 2442. I just want to see this thing not hesitate. I have this, I'm almost certain it's going to be smooth. We've got that nice Rainbird click. We got a 5-pound, slightly under 5-pound vehicle to throw around with it. There's nothing left to do except take it out to the place where we find out if things work or not, and then we'll know. Do we have another viable option, or is this meant for somebody else? I mean, we do this all the time. You ever sleep on your arm wrong and you don't notice it until you're part of the way through the day, and you go to pick something up and you turn your arm in just a specific way and you're like, "Gah, man." Nothing better than waking up sore in the morning. I mean, so far, here's the deal. It feels remarkably Fusion. Still got that click-a-click. Oh, by the way, if it wasn't exhibited clearly when I was showing the front end, a 90 is way max on this forward motor mount. At full suspension compression on the left-hand side, that gear misses the front upper link and drive shaft by millimeters. So I'm gonna have to browse. I'm definitely gonna have to order a new 90 because let's be honest. I just did the loops right here, and I kind of already decided. Unless that motor gets really hot really fast, we've got our guy. It feels so powerful. And beyond that, the part that is the real X factor here is you'd never know. You'd never know. Oh, it's the, and air quotes are on combo, it's the blind test combo of all blind test combos. You hand the controller, well, we need black windows, I guess. Hand the controller to somebody and go, tell me what you think of this. There's no hesitation. None. Well, the higher kV you go, the more power you get. It's more powerful. So I guess the 3000 kV was a definitely educated decision, because this feels more powerful than the 2000 kV dynamic 380. The low speed is ridiculous. It's a Fusion all the way. The Fusion already does something that apparently nobody else can successfully do. And now they've made one that does something no one can successfully do this small. Now it really does make me curious. Like, how much weight could you throw at this and it still be all right? Because what I reckon to be the target audience for this, something like a UTB 18, weighs about 2 pounds. And this is not particularly heavy, but it still weighs 5. I'm just trying to see how little throttle input I can use to get up obstacles. Removed from this mere hours ago was an AM32 controller, Rhino S12 1470 kV outrunner. This feels very different than that. I'm not noticing the 3000 kV-ness of it at all. holding throttle at a nice low point, it feels so Fusion. And most of the fleet here is Fusions or Outrunners with a smattering of brushed system because we like them. And I think we're on 2 censored in-runners, 2 out of over 50. So this is our only 16th scale power supply, unless you count the dynamic 380 as 16th scale, in which case this would be our second. But this is proper. Get right there, over there. Like I'm trying to stay at a real consistent level of throttle input. I think I can. Let's go right hand. I need to get in right. I need to get in between those 2 rocks right there on the right hand side. We have so much weight on the front axle. It's more difficult than others to flop it backwards through there. Yeah, kind of had to cut it back a little bit. I noticed no loss of power coming from like a 60 amp controller. So maybe they're making good. Well, we don't use that many amps, but maybe they're making good on their claims. It honestly, even after the wheel change, which came before this introduction of the Fusion, it felt, I mean, obviously it weighs 5 pounds. It felt pretty sprightly. This system appears to me, at least at this point, to be more than capable of pushing 5 pounds around. And again, Hobbywing. Can I get out of that? Sure, I did. I didn't have to get up. Hobbywing very, very good at that, the ultra low speed. They've got the ultra low speed that, like a full-size Fusion Pro, that is the benchmark. When you get something, you're trying to say, can I get this as smooth and responsive in that first 25% of the power band as a Fusion Pro? This is a tiny Fusion Pro. I don't know explicitly what I expected. It's a Fusion. We have a lot of Fusions. We only have one of these. Not for long. We got a couple rigs that are lighter. Could handle the way, and are running a full-size Fusion. I just have to look a little bit closely at what my gearing options are, because you have to gear accordingly. You're not going to fit 1390 on everything. It's bordering on real good. The Fusion 16 here is great because there's always that cost-benefit analysis running in the background, you know? So it's $59.99. You get one choice of KV. That hurts more than it helps. The 3000 KV is definitely a choice because lower KV is going to make less power, and I think it would probably be noticeable. So you have one choice of KV. It is not explicitly designed to fit a 10th scale vehicle. It does not have the bolt pattern for it. So you need to use an adapter. If Hobbywing intended for you to do this from the factory, when you slid open that the Hobbywing box we all know and love, there'd be a little adapter plate in there, wouldn't there? Because then they'd be like, oh yeah, fit it to whatever. It says for 16th and 18th scale, but what do scales even mean anymore? Most of the time, it's the numbers that they chose for whatever, for marketing ad copy. We've got a real wah, 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 wah. That spur gear has like 2 flat teeth on it, and I was attacking it with a file for like 10 minutes, and I couldn't really isolate what were the 2 teeth out of 90 that are making all that ruckus. It is 100% spur and pinion though. The motor, if you fire up the motor and go to wide open throttle under no load, it basically makes no noise at all. You have to put your ear near it to hear it. This thing is stealthy. So this is, we have some Apple flavor here, which is, if you're in the Hobbywing ecosystem, if you're already an owner of product, do you own an SE? Do you have a 1080? Do you have a Pro? Then you probably already have a card and you're ready to go. If you have a Fusion Pro, the sticker matches. The Fusion Pro sticker is the same, all the same parameter settings. Oh, you know what? Let me swing her. I want to go this higher side here. I want to swing it around a couple more times, and then I want to put my finger on it. Yeah, it is. This thing's got authority. It is too responsive. Like it's a really angry little 4-cylinder. It will build those RPMs real fast, but somehow has the torque of a diesel. I can't imagine how quiet it would be on a fresh out of the package spur and pinion. This is absolutely not a full-size Fusion. You need to take that into account. This guy fell into the category of perfect for it because not just 5 pounds, also runs 3S 450 packs. So he can run about usually between 15 and 20 minutes is what he'll get. I don't know, maybe he'll get a little bit more out of this if it has better efficiency than the Outrunner. But that motor's warm, baby. Not like, here's the thing. If you haven't trained your fingers to detect motor heat, it's not that hard. You can do it. There are ranges of like, oh, that's warm, oh, that's hot, oh, I shouldn't touch that. The basic rule of thumb, no pun intended, is if you stick your finger under there and put it on the motor and you instinctively and reflexively recoil from it, that's too hot. Because you're past that threshold of pain. My threshold of pain is up around 150 degrees or so. So I know if I touch and my thumb comes back without me moving it, we're past 150. And I try not to live up past 150. I can hold my thumb on that motor pretty much indefinitely. I would say, too many years of using a lathe. I would say the motor right now is sitting between 110 and 120 degrees, which is not particularly hot. Most electronics are perfectly fine operating in that range of temperatures. But be aware, 3,000 kV, tiny little baby boy. You're putting 5 pounds on it, up to or above 5 pounds on it. It's going to get warm. It's just it's just going to. And you are here, virtually, in a land where seasons are but suggestions. For while we've already changed the time, and we are most of the way into the depths of autumn, it doesn't care. That sun is hot. That sun is hot. I'm not wearing any shoes. I'm wearing a lifeguard hat. You know, the big straw hat. It feels like, for many places, like I have to imagine that if you're a denizen of the UK, this is what your summer is like. And it's like mid-70s Fahrenheit right now, but in the sun, that sun will heat you. So the sun beating down on him, temperature on the rocks is going to be much higher than the ambient air temperature. Not enough to where we're going to lose traction from it or anything. Wrap it around, swing it around town. Couldn't quite. We'll do this cut. He's going to take this no problem, I can already tell. There is, I cannot harp enough on the immediacy. The power is just there. From the first touch of the throttle, right there, there's just power. 6 or 8%, and you're moving. And it will throw 5 pounds around. Now, mind you, I set endpoint limits on throttle both directions. But again, How many times do I have to say 3,000? Because, I mean, it is. You cannot, I don't know. What's the smallest 2.3 millimeter bore pinion you can get? We could get down to what? Like, if there's such a thing as a 10 tooth, I want it. If there's a 10 tooth 2.3 millimeter bore pinion, I want that. Please and thank you, because that would give me spur to pinion 9-to-1 reduction, and I think then I could gear it out and use the rest of my gearing. It's not that much spicier than what I like, but it is pretty spicy. The response of this snow, oh man. If you're touching trigger, it'll go. It has the power to go. It's something. It is really something. I can't see over there. There we go. And I didn't dial in any throttle curve, expo, any of that. I just put endpoint limits to limit the overall top speed. So the throttle response we're getting should be the normal throttle response. I think we can get that rear tire out of there. Whee! Or not, you know, doesn't matter. So here's what you're looking at. This is a thing that, I mean, we have to be considerate about this, because $59.99 isn't like they're giving it away, okay? $59.99, you're gonna have to buy an adapter plate, which is gonna be 10 bucks. So now you're at the price of a $1,200. You're probably gonna have to buy a pinion, almost certainly. You're gonna have to buy probably a spur gear bigger than what you have now. I mean, if you have an 87 on there, you can probably get away with an 87. That's close enough. The next thing you know, you've spent the money of buying an SE, which is gonna fight you a lot less. So is this a novelty for us in 10th scale? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it is. My field view monitor is going weird. I don't know, maybe it's okay now. All right, so it works. It 100% works. There's an adapter plate for it. It just uses normal 16th, 18th scale pinions. You can absolutely make it work. It's super tiny. You can drop 130 grams, but I mean, is it necessary? No. Would I recommend it over a 1200 or an 1800? Probably not. I mean, this rig, that guy sitting right there, is not built for a full-size Fusion. This little tiny Fusion is perfect for him. Absolutely perfect. And to the point where I'm not going to change it out. I'm going to probably change the spur and pinion and just go from there. But I mean, I'm not saying run out and buy one of these. You gotta, because a 1200 or an 1800 is genuinely gonna cost about the same money, and it's gonna serve you better over time. This is a niche thing where if you know, then I think you kind of know. So, you know, it's cool, and it's not a problem for him running his little 450s, but I mean, for an 18 scale application, for a UTB 18 or something like that, this is kind of a no-brainer. Just buy one and put it in there. Like, don't even mess with anything else. Like this in a UTB 18, you're done. You don't need anything else. But it'll, you know, it's more versatility. More versatility is more better. So there you go. The Fusion 16. Yeah, you don't, not just for 16th scales anymore, but also not wildly practical, really. I mean, call it what it is. So before I get over there out of frame, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you for joining us here in the canyon. Any comments? Leave them right down there below. We look forward to seeing you next time. In between now and then, please one and all do your very best. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you again here from the canyon with other things, and I will chime back in at some point as to how this is doing in the long term. But this is a quick view. We don't know anything about the long term. I took this out of a box about 3 hours ago. So that's how quick views work. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And look at this. Right out of frame, no tumbles.